Hi guys, it's Adam from Fluffy Feather Farm, and tonight we're gonna go for a little walk around the farm and check on all the animals. Come and join me. Let's take a stroll. My favorite time of the day on the farm is dusk. And I think it's because a lot of our animals on the farm are crepuscular, which means that they love to be active during the early morning and early dusk hours of the day because they're safer, honestly. So it's not the middle of the day where there's, sun and they're out in the heat, or, they're out in the middle of a snowstorm. And it's not the middle of the night. See, I knew we would find something fun going on. So right behind me there's McAllister and JD, and they are avidly defending the island there from the wild geese. So there are domestic geese, and they live here on the property. But as I was saying, this dusk time of night is where animals are most active because it's when they're the most safe. It's not the middle of the night when predators are out. It's not the middle of the day, which is usually when it's hottest, especially during the summertime. But it's kind of that temperate time of evening. And the same thing happens in the morning, when the sun is coming up. They're also usually very docile and easygoing. And everybody's just very relaxed during this time of day. So it's kind of a fun time to walk around because, nobody's like really excited about eating. Nobody's really excited about running around. And, it's not usually an active time. It's just more of a relaxed, chill time, kind of like after dinner on Sunday night. Now, right over here is something cool behind me here. These are our beehives. So back here, we don't have any bees in them at the moment because it's early spring and we haven't gotten our bees yet. And last fall, our bees did not overwinter. So that means that they swarmed at the end of the season and they left because of a number of different reasons. They either got uncomfortable or something happened, or maybe there was just a weird smell. Like we don't even really know why bees come and go. But at the end of the season, all of our bees left. And this season, we're gonna get new bees. So that happens, in the next couple of weeks here. So we're coming up on the main part of the south side of our property. If you look over here to my left, this is our driveway that comes into the property. And behind me there is Pasture 1, which is the first pasture that you encounter when you come to Fluffy Feather Farm. And then we have our south barn, which is behind me here. This is our cattle chute over here, which is where we do grooming and vaccinations and pregnancy checks and deworming and ear tagging. Anything that has to happen with the cattle, we do inside of the chute usually, because it keeps the cattle safe and it keeps us safe. And then as we go down the driveway here behind me, the driveway continues and we have pastures 3 through 9 all the way down this driveway here, all the way until we get to our pole barn. And pasture 9 is our isolation pasture. So if new animals come to the farm or there's a reason that we have to isolate an animal, that is where they hang out when they get here. And that's just for the safety of the herd, because we want to make sure that we're biosecure and that everybody that's coming into the farm is fully screened before they're introduced to the rest of the herd. But tonight, I think what we're gonna do tonight is we're gonna take a stroll through Pasture 1, because Pasture 1 is historically the most fun pasture here on the farm, because it's where all of our bred cows go on their 7th and 8th month of pregnancy. So Pasture 1 is where we will keep all of our expectant moms right before they have calves. And there's a reason, and I'll tell you why. But let's jump over the fence here and get inside first. So the reason this pasture is the one where we keep all of our cows that are very close to having calves is because it gets the most visibility on our farm. It runs along the entrance here. So the driveway runs along this section of Pasture 1. And everybody that comes in and out of the farm every single day has to go past this pasture multiple times a day. It also is next to the barn. It's very close, as you can see, to our south barn. So if we have any complications, we can quickly move a cow into the barn. And on top of that, you saw just on the other side of the barn is our cattle chute. So if we have to get a cow into the chute for any sort of health reason related to them being pregnant or having their calf, that's readily accessible too. Now, when our cows are bred and they're newly pregnant, they go out into pasture 10, which is actually just beyond those trees there. So pasture 10 is our largest pasture, and it has all of our cows that are bred for the season. As soon as we know that they're pregnant, they go out into pasture 10, and then right before they give birth, they come back here. Also, around our south barn here, pastures 1 through 8, is where we keep all of our cows while we're breeding. So we mainly do bull breeding, which means that we naturally let our bulls breed our cows. At this point, we have not done any artificial insemination, and we have not done any embryo transfer. We haven't done any flushing, and all of those things are just different ways of doing basically artificial insemination. So right now we are bull breeding, and one of our bulls is Milkshake. Milkshake is right here coming up behind me on the left-hand side. So Milkshake is in here with our soon-to-deliver moms, not for any reason in particular, other than I don't really have anywhere else to put him right now. So Milkshake is not going to bother any of the calves when they're born, and it's kind of nice to have him out here because he kind of watches over all of the bred cows, and none of these cows are in heat, so he's pretty relaxed while he's out here, which is really nice. Come breeding season, which for us starts the beginning of June, he will be moved to another pasture with cows that are not bred. Hi, this is Karen. So Karen here is one of our bred cows, and she is due, in the next couple of weeks here. She's actually the daughter of Stacy, who you guys have met, who is Mindy's best friend. And I think you guys also know Fonzie. So Fonzie is also Stacy's daughter. So Karen and Fonzie are half sisters, and Stacy is their mom. And all three of them are here on the farm with us. Fonzie is not due for another month and a half or so, so she's still out in pasture 10. Let's take a look at who else is out here right now. So right over there where Milkshake is, we have Reba, Snowball, and Sugar. They're all due here in the next couple of weeks. And then over here by herself, that's Biscuit, also due soon. And then we have 2 of our micro minis out here. So our micro minis are our female heifers. Currently they're heifers, because we all know that heifers are female cattle that have not had a calf yet, and cows are females that have had a calf. So we have 2 heifers out here. One is Maisie and one is Martha May. So Maisie is out here. She is a heifer, and then she is actually not pregnant. She's the only animal out here that's not currently pregnant. And then we have Martha May out here, who is also a micro mini, and she is pregnant. So this is Martha May. I know, hi. And she is not due till actually the end of the season. So the 2 of them are out here because I just like to have, they're smaller, and I like to have them closer to the barn. The other micro minis are actually in the barn right now because they're due to calve any day. And then we did have an exciting thing happen here yesterday, is that we had a cow that delivered a calf a couple of weeks early. Not early to her, early to us, because we did not know that she was so far along. And this is Sasha Rose. And if we can get a little bit closer, we might be able to see Charlie. So that little guy is Charlie. He is so cute, isn't he? He's a little dun-colored bull calf, and he was born here yesterday morning, actually. We were so happy to find him. Here he is, look. Isn't he so cute? So you might say, why didn't you guys know that she was so close? So here's how we do things around here. We bull breed, like I said earlier, which means that we have to visually see our cows being bred to know exactly when their due date is. So if we don't physically see our bulls breeding our heifers or our cows, then we have to estimate their due date based on the vet's ultrasound that they do. So the vet can do an ultrasound and get a pretty accurate determination of the age of the calf. But after day 60, there's a little bit of gray area. So in Sasha Rose's case, we didn't have an exact date that we saw Sasha Rose be bred. So it either happened in the middle of the night or when there was nobody around. And so the due date that we had was an estimate. So that estimate usually is kind of like a give or take of 1 or 2 weeks. So that's why we didn't know exactly when she was going to have her calf. We were very excited yesterday when little Charlie was born, and he is doing great, and mom is doing great, and both of them are just super sweet. Now the last cow that we have out here in pasture 1 is Betty right here. She is one of our black Highlands, and she is out here in pasture 1 because she's actually in here as a transition space. So she was one of our last cows bred of the season last year, and then it started to get very cold and it was harder to move cows around. So her and Lindsay actually stayed over here near the barn, near the south barn. And we moved Lindsay over to pasture 10 the other day because we had an opportunity to move her quickly across, and she was very, very happy to move into pasture 10. However, Betty, she wanted to stay here in pasture 1. So she's been hanging out in here, and then when we bring when we do our next shift of animals, we have to bring some animals over from 10 that are getting closer to being due. And when we do that, we'll move Betty back over to 10 because she will hang out in there until later on in the season when she's due. So there's kind of a constant back and forth here. We're always looking to move cows and heifers and bulls around depending on what's currently happening at the farm. So if we're breeding, we're moving bulls and cows and heifers that are open into certain pastures. If we're calving, then we're moving those animals over here into pasture 1. After they calve, then they're moving to a different pasture. So there's always movement going around at the farm, and it's really fun. The other thing we try and do is rotational grazing. However, we haven't been really good about it because we've been utilizing a lot of our pastures and we've been utilizing all of them. So rotational grazing is when you let one of your pastures sit with nobody in it so that the grass can recover. So like this pasture, the grass just started to grow this week because it's early spring right now. And if we were rotationally grazing, we would at some point move all of the animals out of here. We'd let the grass grow for a couple weeks, 3 or 4 weeks, and then we'd move them back in, and the cows would eat it back down again, and then we'd move them out again. And then, so we don't do that as much as we should because we just don't have the space to do that. So we feed a lot of hay. So we don't rely heavily on the grass in our pastures to feed our animals. During the spring and summer and fall time, they do eat some of the grass in the pastures here behind us, but we feed hay a majority of the season just because we don't have enough area to let our cows only graze. A lot of times you will hear people talk about how many acres per cow you need, and that is really to do with feeding. So if you want to only feed your cows based on the number of acres you have, like you want them to eat the grass that is on the ground and growing, you need about 2 acres per cow. Well, we don't have that. So what we do is we supplement their feeding with hay. We can have a lot more cute, fluffy cows because we feed them hay. The benefit of feeding pasture grass and having cows out on pasture is that you don't have to buy hay. So it's a lot less expensive to have cows on the pasture, grazing on the pasture, because you don't have to pay for hay to be delivered. We have a significant hay expense because our grass in our pastures is not enough to support the amount of animals we have. There's positives and negatives to both. The positives are that we can have more fluffy cows here to snuggle because we feed hay. The negative is that we have to pay to bring hay into the farm to be able to feed our animals. The positive to have all your cows on pasture grass is that you can let them out, they can eat the pasture grass, and you don't have to buy any hay for the season, for spring, summer, and fall. The negative is that you have to have a significant amount of land to be able to do that, which we don't have enough land to support the number of animals we have here at the farm. So from like a health and safety standpoint, we're talking like overcrowding. That's not really a concern. It's not 2 acres per cow because they need the space. It's 2 acres per cow because they need the food. So I hope that makes sense, because when you Google how many acres do I need for my cow, it's always going to come up with 2 acres per cow. And I think people have the misconception sometimes that that is a space requirement for the animals' needs to be able to walk around and, you know, be social and be comfortable. Our cows are very comfortable and happy in a smaller pasture. The only thing we have to do is we have to supplement the amount of food that they're getting. I hope that makes sense. I know that was kind of a long explanation, but when we were getting into this and starting, I was very confused as to how we would pass all these farms that had a bunch of cows in what looked like 5 or 10 acres. And I didn't understand how that was possible if you needed 2 acres per cow to be able to have cows. And then I finally figured it out over time, because it's about the food issue. It's not about the space issue. I hope you guys learned something tonight. I hope you had fun. I hope you've chosen to subscribe and like this video so that you can continue to see a lot of our videos. And I hope you enjoyed our tour tonight of Pasture 1 and a little bit around the farm. And don't forget, if you want some more behind the scenes access to our farm, please check out the link to the herd in the description below. Have a great night, guys.